Hey everybody, this is my 40-gallon waterfall tank, and today we're going to start here as we take a little impromptu trip around the world. We're going to have a look at all the tanks down here in my fish room, and as I said, we're going to start here at my waterfall tank. So it is called my waterfall tank, but at the moment it is still shut down. I haven't really gotten around to doing anything to get it up and running yet. I have started bringing in some of my outdoors plants, or at least they're house plants that I keep outdoors in the nicer weather, and now that the weather is starting to cool back down, they are coming back inside. And so as a result of that, I have to have my big overhead grow light on, and that's why everything is so brightly lit. That's not really meant to light up the tank itself. So soon we will be getting in there and start working on that waterfall. My main concern is how dirty it is. I mean, how am I going to get in there and clean all of that out to start waterproofing it again? I mean, it's just dirt and crud and everything else in there. And so I'm almost tempted to just start it back up and see what happens. And if it starts leaking really bad, then we can always shut it back down and I can go from there. But after all this time, I'm halfway tempted to believe that that leak might have sealed itself, or whatever was causing the problem has dried up and gone away. I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe I'll just turn it on one day and we'll see what happens. Otherwise, not much going on within the tank itself. I've got not really no new fish, except I was noticing a little while ago that my population of the blue wag platies that are in this tank is starting to increase a little bit. I do have some small ones in there, so obviously they are in there breeding, and I always expected they would. Any kind of live bear you put in a tank with even moderately acceptable conditions and you're going to get breeding going on. But with the Buenos Aires tetras in there and the skirt tetras, and of course I've got an angelfish in this tank, I didn't imagine that many of the fry would survive. But I've also got lots and lots of places to hide and lots of cover and caves and nooks and crannies. So some of them do, and as a result, I'm getting more and more of the blue wag platies in there, which I really like. I think they're gorgeous. And so hopefully one of these days I'll have enough of them that I can start spreading them around in some of my other tanks the same way I do with my red wag platies that bred out of control in a couple of my tanks. Actually, I put them in there without any predators, you know, nothing to keep their population in check. And boy, if you got some live bears and you don't have anything to keep their population in check, their population will explode, trust me. So that's all that's really going on in there. The foot tank here is still just ticking over like a clock. My cherry barb is still in there. I did throw a bunch more guppies in there a little while ago, but I think I covered that in the last couple of videos. It's been a while since I put any more guppies in there. But again, everything is still just ticking over. I've not really looked closely to see if I've still got shrimp in there in a little while, so I don't know. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. It's been a while since I've checked. So moving on, we're going to go ahead and turn the big light here out. You can go ahead and, actually we'll turn both of these lights out. It'll give us a little bit less glare. And it also looks like my battery is starting to run a little bit low, so we might have to hurry this up a little bit. 29 miscellaneous. Nothing really going on in this tank either. I did a water change on it last week. Did not even wipe the glass down when I did the water change. But everything is just ticking over like a clock in this tank like it always does, so not really a lot to talk about. Honestly, there's not a lot to talk about in any of my tanks. I've been having some back issues over the last week or so, and I haven't really been doing a whole lot down here in the fish room one way or the other, and so there's really not a lot changed since the last time I did one of these around the world updates. But we can still walk around, have a look at all the tanks, see what's going on, and see how pretty all the fish are looking. So 29 miscellaneous is looking good. As always, just ticks over like a clock. Never ever have any issues with this tank. I should probably knock on wood after saying that, but I've said it many, many times over the years, and I still continue to not have any problems with this tank. So moving on to my 55-gallon Gourami tank. I'm really happy with the way this tank is turning out. The algae and all the weird gross stuff that was growing in there and all that cyanobacteria seems to be taken care of and under control. The guppies, the red wag platies in there are doing a good job keeping the algae under control. The gouramis themselves are doing a good job at keeping the algae under control. I got a lot of that hair algae that grows on stuff in there, and surprisingly, those gouramis are doing a pretty good job with it. So not much to talk about, but certainly plenty to look at. These gouramis are just beginning to look amazing. The coloration on them is just awesome. And I'm pretty sure this one here is the big dominant male. And it looks like I've got 3 that are definitely male. And then one of them is still small enough that we'll see as it develops and gets a little bigger. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be a female. Yeah, this one here. Pretty sure that's probably going to be a female, but it's still really small, so we'll have to wait and see as it grows up a little bit more. I'm honestly considering getting some more and adding them to the tank. The way they all seem to swim together and group together in a school, everybody's nice and chill. They love coming over here and nibbling on this water sprite that I've got in the tank. And it almost seems like they're not eating the water sprite itself, but they're nibbling on the algae that grows on the water sprite. So they're doing a great job at helping keep the tank clean. So all in all, I'm really, really happy with the way this gourami tank is turning out. I knew it was going to be a long time getting there, kind of like letting your short hair grow out. You got to go through that unpleasant period, but eventually you get there and it looks good again. And that's what I was going through with this tank. We were just kind of letting it all fall over, you know, and I knew at some point it would get back on its feet and sort itself out. And that's exactly what's happened. And now I'm, you know, reaping the benefits of that because it's looking fantastic. I just cannot get over this one. Try to get it to where I'm not getting any glare on it. Just fantastic looking fish. So moving on. 55-gallon tank. This tank could use a water change, but this tank could pretty much always use a water change. I did a pretty big water change not too long ago. It's been maybe a week, but because of the size of that pleco that's in here, and I mean you can see how much droppings it leaves. That angelfish is not a particularly small fish. I got all those guppies. I've got 2 of these Siamese algae eaters that don't do very much algae eating anymore. They just kind of laze around in the bushes. And then I got 2 more catfish on the bottom that are out of sight right now. So this is a fairly heavily stocked tank, even though it doesn't really seem like it at first glance. And then when you account for the size of that pleco in there and all the waste that fish produces, you know, this tank realistically could get a water change every few days to stay on top of it. So it's been, you know, probably a week. So again, after a week, this tank's probably ready for another water change again. Still have the 2 sick diamond tetras. The one has a bad swim bladder. You can see is always kind of fluttering to stay in the water. And then the one's got a boogered up eye where it's got one eye is all sort of whitened over. But otherwise, they seem like they're still functioning okay. And so I'm going to leave them alone. There you can see the one that's got that big bulged eye that's all white. Doesn't look like any kind of fungal infection or anything. It just looks like it's a blind eye. So we'll have to wait and see if anything else develops out of that. So moving along, I forgot I got all the stuff set up from when I did my live stream last night. So we'll have to just carefully step around all of my tripod and whatnot. Once again, nothing really to report going on here in my 40 breeder. Don't even see any of the fish swimming around in this tank. I considered throwing a bunch of those red wag platies in this tank, but I really don't want to. I've got some plans for this tank, and I want it to stay empty. I know if I throw those red wag platies in there, before you know it, I'll be throwing a couple more of this or that, and then it'll get a couple of guppies in there, and it'll turn out to be just another tank with some live bears and stuff in there. And as I said, I've got some plans for this tank. I want to do something fun with it, something a little more interesting. But I have to get around to doing it. I got to get in there, and we really need to clean up the plants and thin that out, get the circulation flowing in this tank. I mean, can you imagine how little circulation there is in that dense thicket right there? I'm imagining not a lot. And this is one of the earlier tanks I ever put together, and as such, I did not have a decent enough understanding, and I certainly didn't have any experience with water flow, water circulation, areas where detritus and mulm and stuff collects. I guarantee if you lift up any of these rocks or anything under there, you would just find piles of mulm and whatnot. So we'll get in there, we'll do some work, and that'll be its own video in its own time whenever we get around to it. So I am now being told my battery is critically low, so if I vanish before this is over, we'll see what we can do about tying it together with after I recharge the battery. So my 125-gallon New World tank, nothing really to talk about here. The last thing I did in this tank, other than some basic maintenance and water change, was when I put those new spotted silver dollars in here, and they've settled in nicely. My bluegill is looking good. There's actually a little bit of color and vibrancy coming back to it. My spotted tilapia flow there, she looks amazing as always. And just all in all, this is a nice happy tank right now. So not a whole lot to talk about with this one. Again, there's not really a whole lot to talk about with any of my tanks at the moment. And that, of course, is my white suckerfish. So snail tank, real quick, we'll be talking about this one soon because I want to talk about all of that mulm you can see in there. That's a huge, thick pile of it. And so that is going to be the topic of a video coming up in the very near future. My native tank now has a bunch of red wag platies in it. I still have several of the gambusia, but not nearly as many as we started with. And I still have both of the crayfish in this tank. I have seen both of them out at the same time as recently as a couple days ago. So I'm assuming they're both still in there and doing okay. I need to get in there and do some maintenance. I need to vac out some of the crud. I've given up on trying to keep a filter in the waterfall area or in the pump area because it gets clogged up in a matter of days. And so that's with no filter at all. And it's still that clogged up that we've got that little water flow coming out of it. So we're definitely going to have to get in there and do some work on this tank. But I am digging the way the moss is starting to take off and attach to the woodwork and really start to grow now that it's got some good lighting and some nice moist conditions. And moving over to my 125-gallon tank, we will actually have to come around my waterfall and step back over here to actually see the whole tank in one go. So not too much to talk about in this tank, but I did just do a fairly big water change yesterday. I got the glass wiped down, but I did not do a filter change, and I really need to get in there and do one. It's been a while since I've done a filter change on this tank, and this tank is fairly heavily stocked. It's not too heavily stocked, but I do get the filter clogging up with mulm pretty quickly. And the last time I did a water change on this tank yesterday, I noticed that the flow coming out of the spray bar was fairly low compared to what it should be. So that's a pretty good indication that the filter itself is starting to get a little bit clogged up. So I need to get in there and handle that. Next time I do a water change on this tank, it'll definitely be time for a filter change as well. And then other than that, not too much to report on. I did see the tail of my Synodontis catfish. I bought another Synodontis Eupteris, if you'll remember, or Euteris, however you pronounce that. And as far as I can tell, it hides underneath of this piece of wood. I've pointed this out before, that this whole big piece of wood right here is sort of concave and hollow underneath, and the fish can get under there, and apparently that catfish does, because I've seen its tail sticking out from the little inlet or little opening, little cave mouth, if you will. So I know it's still in there, I just never see it, and I was really kind of hoping that that would be a much more outgoing catfish than it is, but we'll see. As it gets bigger, it might become a little more outgoing. Other than that, not too much going on here in the 125. I also want to shoot another video about this Tenopoma here, so that'll be something else to look forward to if you're interested in hearing about how to tell the difference between a male and a female. that is on my list of quick videos to shoot, because that'll be a little quickie 1-minute video. So again, make sure you're subscribed. You won't miss any videos like that I got coming up, or anything else, because you never know what it's going to be with me. Getting onto my deep sand bed tank, or my deep bed tank, whatever you want to call this one. Once again, nothing really going on in here. I haven't done any water changes, haven't done any maintenance. I did top the tank off a few days ago, but I mean, that's hardly worth noting. I do have the red wag platies in this tank, but they are not breeding out of control, because this tank doesn't have a whole lot of places to hide. And between the Ember Tetras and the 2 German blue rams that I've got in here, the fry, if there are any, have not, been noticeable. I haven't seen any fry develop in this tank. I did have 3 of the GBRs in here, the German blue rams, but 2 of them clearly paired off, and the 3rd one was getting harassed pretty significantly by this little male right here. And so I took that other one upstairs and I put it in the tank I keep set up for my wife to enjoy. So she's got a little German blue ram in her tank now. And this tank, of course, is still ticking over fairly well. Haven't done much in the way of looking into the nitrate or paid much attention to that. I'm just kind of letting it sit here and tick over. And again, as I said in the beginning of the video, I've been dealing with some back pain this week, and so I haven't really been doing a whole lot down here in the fish room anyway. So moving on to my quarantine tank, I did remove a lot of the guppies, platies that were in here. There was, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 of them in here, and I got most of them out, but there's still 5 in here, and if we wait a few more weeks, it will probably be a lot more than 5. So I don't know if I want to work on getting these out of here now and being done with it, or if I want to let them go and breed one more time and get another round of fry out of them, because I can get another 20, 30 free fish out of them just by letting them breed for a little while. Problem is how many of that same kind of fish do I need? So moving on to my Brackish tank. Once again, I'm going to say not a lot to talk about in here. I can't really think of anything to speak of. I did put a new power head in the back. You can see it right there next to the aquarium heater. It's a little power head. It's only 80 gallons per hour, and I didn't realize until after I put it in the tank. In fact, I didn't realize until after I put one in my other tank. I put one in my Waterfall tank, the exact same model, and it wasn't until after I'd put it in and shot the video, and I was looking at a link for it, and when I saw the link, I realized that it's actually got an adjustable flow rate on it. So I've got it turned all the way up, and at full crank it's only 80 gallons per hour, so it's not exactly a powerhouse of water flow, but it does give me a secondary source of circulation here in the tank. So I'm looking at Butterbean now, and I'm just noticing that his left pectoral fin is not moving. It almost looks like he doesn't even have a left pectoral fin. So not sure what's going on with that. I've never seen him buzzing around with only one fin extended and having one fin to his side. Or again, it almost looks like it's gone. It's not even there. So I'm not sure what would be going on with that. Why he's only swimming around with the one fin. So that's another reason to subscribe, because when I get to the bottom of that, or we look into that a little further, yeah, I'm telling you, it doesn't even look like he has a pectoral fin on that side of his body. Not sure what's going on there. Alright, well, like I said, make sure you're subscribed and you won't miss that or anything else I got coming up, because I will be doing some more video talking about that once I get a little better look at it, and maybe do a water change on the tank and see if that doesn't change his behavior a little bit. Maybe his fins are clamped because he's not happy at the moment or something. I don't know. Again, I've never really noticed him swimming around with one fin like that before. That's really interesting. So anyway, we are back more or less to where we started here at my 29 miscellaneous. So I'm going to say thanks for watching. Don't forget, I have memberships available now. I always appreciate the support. I always appreciate the super thanks that I get. So make sure you're subscribed one last time. Thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.